the visionaries behind Sinatra. Behind every venture lie pioneers with vision. First up, Brian Pierce, hospitality maestro, wine app innovator, and salt brand visionary. Next, Adam Leor, from hacking digital realms to pioneering NYC's pharmacies, this tech prodigy now ignites AZ's tech revolution. And then, David DeLorenzo, from Warner Brothers Beats to becoming the king of hospitality insurance. Together, they crafted Sinatra, the voice of hospitality, on a mission to deliver the industry's first single platform experience.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome, and we're really excited to have you here tonight. Now, we have a really amazing panel of industry experts from different perspectives that are going to tell us sort of what's happening in this space. This is really the voice of hospitality. However, Adam has only given us like 23 minutes, and so we're going to speed date through bios and questions, and hopefully give you all enough time to really give a sort of snapshot of what's happening in the industry. So, our first question goes to Steve Chucri, and he is the CEO of a bunch of stuff, but including the Arizona Restaurant Association. He has been an elected public servant, an entrepreneur, a corporate executive leader, and he is also the consul of Estonia. Steve, thanks for being with us.
Jessica, I tell myself I'm a big deal in front of the mirror every day and nothing changes.
Right.
So
and,
thank
oh,
you.
No, you are, for
you
sure.
For
I've known Steve for 30 years, and he's been a big deal every single one of those years.
Well, it's good to
Anyway.
be. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So our first question, Steve, so you run the Arizona Restaurant Association, and you have deep industry expertise, both from a national perspective, given your work in DC, and an Arizona perspective. How significant is the industry, the hospitality industry, for the national economy, and how significant is it for Arizona?
So I was born and raised in Arizona, and I joke that we had two kinds of food growing up in Arizona. We had Mexican food, then we had a different kind of Mexican food. The culinary diversity of the state was just that. Today, you see all the culinary options we have, not just from a Thai restaurant or an Indian restaurant, but the diversity of menus. And that's really significant to pay attention to because that's what the consumer wants. They want that culinary diversity first and foremost. Secondly, Maple and Ash, which is just up the street, their first footprint out of Chicago was here in Scottsdale. So we are becoming more and more of a destination. Restaurants in Arizona this year will sell $23 billion worth of food. We employ 250,000 people. Our daily payroll is 18 million. Extrapolate that out to a national scene, $1 trillion will be sold in American restaurants this year. We will have a payroll of 300 billion. And so we are that of an economy. I mean, we are a huge economy, and I think that over the years of COVID was an understatement people didn't realize. But I will tell you, 15 years ago, I would say restaurants here in Arizona were an extension of your kitchen. 10 years ago, I would tell you we're an extension of your dining room. Today, I would tell you we're a lifestyle. We're a part of your everyday lifestyle, and that's something we're very proud of.
That's well said, and so very true. Now, Howard Beck joins us today from Illinois. Thank you for flying in, Howard. And we're very fortunate to have you. He's a chief underwriting officer for Illinois Casualty Company. He's a highly experienced industry expert, industry veteran in the insurance space. So, Howard, given what we just heard from Steve, how important this industry is both nationally and for Arizona, give us a sense of where we are from, insurance. Basically, it's mandatory to have in some cases. It's imperative to protect your business. However, it's also a cost. And we, in an industry where I've heard the margins are very slim, can you please share what you're seeing as, the hospitality industry need when it comes to insurance from your perspective?
You bet. And nothing that this group would rather talk about than insurance all night, I'm sure. So I think it's interesting, but that group can be pretty small. Our company is a specialist in the space. So our business is primarily restaurants and bars and has been since we were started in 1950. So we've got a unique perspective. we're a small insurance carrier, but we're in 13 states, primarily serving hospitality. What's going on in the market today is unprecedented as far as the insurance industry goes. The challenges on the insurance side are the greatest that they've been in probably 40 years, since the mid-'80s. I think you turn on the news any night and you see a weather event that is costing insurance companies in the industry millions or billions of dollars. We've evolved into a very litigious society where people want to sue each other at the drop of the hat. And when you've got an industry like hospitality where you've got a variety of customers coming in and out of your doors, it doesn't take much to create a perceived injury that can result in a lawsuit. And then on top of that, we're seeing juries awarding unprecedented settlement amounts that really we haven't seen in the past, and it kind of seems like since COVID, those amounts have been greatly increasing. Those are all factors that cause insurance companies to pay more money, the insurance industry to pay more money. As the industry pays more money, they have to charge more premiums. The unfortunate thing about all of this is that none of those factors appear to be anything that are going away in the near future. So the reality is, from an insurance industry standpoint, things are not going to be getting better. The cost of insurance is not likely to be going down for business owners. And to magnify the issue, hospitality is one of the least desirable segments of the business insurance market. We are a real anomaly in that we focus on it. A lot of insurance companies, especially the big insurance companies, will write restaurants and bars when conditions are good and they're trying to grow. But when in times like this, it's one of the first industries that they step away from. And we're seeing fewer and fewer carriers in the space right now. And the less supply, the demand stays constant, prices go up. So it's a little bit of a bleak outlook from the insurance standpoint for the hospitality industry right now.
So there's definitely an opportunity to bring solution to bear. And
perfect time for it.
Terrific. David DeLorenzo, or DELO, very obviously with the fan club.
Those are all plants, by the way.
Extended family, we get it. No, insurance broker in the hospitality space, promoter, podcaster, writer, public speaker, coach, there's nothing you don't do. So your question, after Howard just sort of gave us his perspective from the industry standpoint, what are you seeing from the broker perspective, sort of really in the trenches, and what sort of pain points do you see here in Arizona? Do they mirror what Howard has seen nationally?
Yeah, so you forgot fitness model, but anyways.
I didn't want to make the other panelists feel bad.
I had to break my own ice with that. All right, so Howard's absolutely right. Things are not getting better. They haven't gotten better. They've gotten worse. And, you know, over the decades that I've been doing this from a broker perspective, I've watched cycles of what's called a hard market. We're in a hard market right now. And unfortunately, that comes with a lot of pain. And that pain is higher premiums, it's more claims, it's more frivolous claims, some legitimate claims. And when I look at this, and I look at it from my perspective, and I'm a hospitality specialist broker, so when I see an industry that I'm involved with and that I'm passionate about just get hit and hit and hit, and I watch companies pull out of the market and no longer want to insure restaurants and these places that we want to go to as community and enjoy ourselves responsibly and not blame these places for doing what they're licensed to do, I sit here and I think, what is the solution? Well, tonight you're going to learn what the solution is. I'm going to tell you that. So from a broker standpoint, we need solutions, and we need things to help document and mitigate loss and do all the sorts of things that we'll talk about tonight.
Thank you. And so we definitely have a problem set. So Jeff Steinberg, a recent transplant from back east. We're really excited to have you and your family here. So hospitality tech, fintech, investor, advisor, revenue leader, builder, connector, and has a really cool wife. So for your, so Jeff, we sort of have the problem set laid out for us. And Steve really set the stage with the economic impact of the industry. And I'd love to get your thoughts around what technology could do here, because I don't really necessarily see the hospitality industry as a tech-driven industry. That's probably incorrect. I'm going to learn a lot tonight. But can you give us your sense of what technology can do to alleviate some of these challenges?
Yeah, of course. So thrilled to be here. It's only been about a month, but this place is really, really fantastic. And you're right. The restaurant hospitality industry, accesses technology a lot less than other general industries. I think right now it's about 3 times less. So I believe that last thing I saw was 2.5% of gross revenue for restaurant hospitality is spent on technology compared to general industry, which is about 7%. And the real challenge there, resides with, sometimes the operators and the challenge, and it's just been so difficult these past few years for an industry where it's already been challenging to implement, to manage technology, especially when, certainly things like the pandemic and labor is a big challenge, and certainly things that we're talking about here where, insurance premiums are certainly increasing, or maybe your coverage is lapsing. So there really is a large challenge there, but it's a huge opportunity at the same time. And really, these folks at this point, they just really need help. And this is really what will be most supportive of them, their employees, the next generation of the industry, and everyone here is super capable. An ex-operator myself, I've seen it, and you can go ahead and do it. And although there's probably been some challenging experiences over these past few years, because it is an industry that you could say is 10, 15, 20 years behind from a technology perspective, it's also the responsibility of a lot of legacy players in the industry to, enable integration with technology. And you are seeing some of that, but certainly there are some peaks and valleys, I would say.
Thank you, Jeff. So now, Howard, Jeff just sort of outlined how technology appears to be the solution. I'd love to know how technology and underwriting are merging, and what you see from a tech standpoint with underwriting.
Well, a lot of the industry looks like me. It's a lot of old white
Very
guys.
handsome. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the insurance industry does not typically attract a lot of young people to it. So it's an aging industry, and we've got a problem within the industry that a lot of guys like me are getting ready to retire. So automation is very key for the insurance industry to be able to survive and grow. We've got the same challenges that the hospitality industry has as far as attracting good quality people. It's hard to get people that want to go into the insurance industry. So we are investing in artificial intelligence to do some of the jobs that people were doing before, and we have to. And the more we can use technology to kind of bridge that gap and be more efficient, because it's also a very competitive industry. So we've got to keep our rates in line with the other carriers. They're all investing in the technology. Everybody's trying to be as efficient as possible, and trying to utilize the technology that's out there as much as possible.
No, that's very helpful. So DELO, now we have sort of the big picture there. So we're hearing from Howard that things are getting more expensive. It's getting harder to keep insurers in the space, particularly for hospitality. So how is technology coming together to help your clients run a more effective and efficient business?
Yeah, so insurance is, I don't know if the right word, I have DELO terminology. I don't know if the right word is like antiquated or just old, but it's
traditional.
Okay. Conservative, yeah. And it's not just like old people, it's just old systems and old ways of doing things. And I mean, you could probably walk into a number of brokers' offices today and still see file cabinets. I mean, I'm not shitting you, file cabinets, right? Back when my dad started, I remember a kid, I would be like, playing with my Star Wars figures, and my dad was on this thing called microfiche. You guys, it's like a microscope that looked at, files. The point being is that there has to be, something has got to happen, something has got to break, and it's going to. When you're looking at hospitality and you're looking at how busy these people are and how bombarded they get day after day by, and minute after minute by different vendors and their employees and patrons and all the things that they have to do, a lot of these things slip through the cracks. And then when you look at it from the broker standpoint, from what we do, and some of my staff is here today, and they can certainly agree, a lot of what we do is a lot of, paperwork, and a lot of it's useless paperwork. And what if we can streamline that paperwork with a technology that, takes the information that's needed and it goes straight to the insurance carrier, and it's an easier and accessible way to do this. And so that's the future. That's where it's going, because it has to go that way. The restaurants can't survive on the margins that they're working with because they need more time.
So Jeff, how quickly can this be deployed to help these proprietors run better businesses so they can realize these opportunities?
I think that what you see is that everybody wants to be better. And I think that there has been a lot of excitement probably over the last 10 years and a lot of innovation. But there's also, the downside to some of that. And kind of, going back to what I mentioned before is that, people miss their kids' soccer games, right? Somebody doesn't show up to work. Turnover is significant. And people get burnt out. And your most talented folks inside a restaurant, you're seeing them kind of, exit earlier than they ever have. So I really think that the opportunity here, there is plenty of economics within the system. I'm not talking about in the direct restaurant. Certainly everybody should be able to be paid a living wage, and I'm all for benefits. And a lot of this does sit within kind of the legacy system. And there are certain legacy providers out there. I'm not talking insurance. I'm talking, food service and everything that you could imagine within the system, as well as even more successful kind of leaders in the industry. Some of them I may have, worked for at a time, that they've brought a lot of innovation to the industry, but at the same time, I think everybody knows we're out of a zero interest rate environment and things like that, and some of these companies might not be profitable, and that creates a challenge, and that can bring some behaviors that maybe are less than ideal, like walling of gardens or not integrating and opening, APIs. And so something like that really needs to, needs to be the norm in our industry. And then on the side of, if you are a software service provider, really needing to deliver upon that service and making sure that that operator that you are selling to, it's really a consultative fit and does have a need for that solution, and you're going to support those folks to implement and onboard and ongoing, for that relationship. So I think that's what's probably most important, is the coordination of, all of these stakeholders in the industry.
Yeah, that's a great point. So Steve, I'm going to ask you to wrap up speed dating for insurance, technology, and hospitality, and really sort of bring it home for us. Like, why is all of this important to Arizona? And how does this benefit not only the proprietor, but maybe more importantly, the customer here in Arizona?
Well, I think as it relates to technology, if you're not adopting it, then you're going to be way behind the 8 ball. And what I mean by that is, we have a saying in the industry that if you don't have a seat at the table, you could end up on the plate. And that's very true for this industry. And so as we've evolved, I think it differs. A friend of mine, a colleague of mine, reminds me we're in the hospitality industry, not the hostility industry. And AI technology in a fine dining restaurant doesn't work, but it does work in a quick service or a fast casual or one of those segments when you're talking about automated drive-throughs. You now have Chippy, who cuts avocados. It's a robot that works at Chipotle and can go through avocados at half the speed that a human can do. So on one hand, you're trying to strike this balance between your biggest asset being your employees, but with the need to embrace technology. And that story has not ended. It's going to be ongoing. To wrap up, I will share this with you. Mother's Day is the most dined out day in America. It's a fact. Everyone thinks it's Valentine's Day. Not so many people are in love, but everyone loves mom. Everybody loves mom, right? Second to that, and this is a very important statistic, last year for the first time in the history of our industry, restaurant sales outperformed grocery store sales by 20%. Think of that on a socioeconomic level. People are dining out more than going to a grocery store. Now, my dear family member, Ike Basha, who has Basha's grocery store, said, why do you think we sold, right? It's incredibly competitive. To date this year, it's 29% more restaurant sales than grocery store sales. So we're here to stay. We have to make sure we embrace and thank our guests because it's more competitive to what you said earlier. And we'll do that. We'll rise to the occasion. Arizona is a young state. We have a lot of people moving here. I think you're going to continue to see dynamic and actually great restaurants coming to the state.
That's a great note to end on. Now, gentlemen, to wrap up for the audience, we're going to do 30 seconds of closing remarks and an interesting fact about your industry. Please, Jeff, we will start with you. Clock is ticking.
Okay, clock's ticking. So I think what's really interesting, some of my responsibilities when I was, prior to us being acquired by Toast at Extra Chef, I was responsible for running revenue, and we'd missed out on some sales hires. And I think I'd kind of, alluded to this a little bit. And what I went ahead and did was like, okay, I just want to focus on going to find some operators that maybe want a career change. And what was super clear as an ex-operator myself is bringing those folks in was super successful because it was just a conversation with a human being on the other side that owned a restaurant and had a problem, and someone called out sick that day, or their child was sick, or their freezer, shut down, or something great. They got a $40,000 catering order. But the point was that it was a conversation and an identification from a consultative perspective if they had a need for a specific solution. And it was very clear that it wasn't, forcing any technology on anybody. Because as we've discussed, fortunately or unfortunately in this industry, turnover is pretty significant. So when you have a conversation and recognize that maybe somebody wasn't a fit or the timing wasn't right or something like that, you'd be happy to introduce them to another company, a competitor, something else that was top of mind. And obviously, because of the turnover in this industry, in 3 months, 6 months, you'd end up getting a call on your phone that said, oh my gosh, thank you so much. You helped me out. You told me so much 6 months ago and totally weren't a fit for us now, but I'm now at a new group, and this is exactly what we need. And that's just the point, is that, you pay it forward and you only look for things that bring the industry forward, because a bad fit, the next people, they pay for those sins, and that really sets folks behind. And time and money are just always the most important thing, especially in this industry. So that's a little bit of a personal experience.
So love that, and that was the Italian version of 30 seconds. So we really appreciate it. DELO, 30 seconds.
So my industry, I'm very proud of it. And when I say my industry, I talk about the hospitality industry. Am I an insurance person? Yeah, I am. And I'm very proud of that too. But there's a lot of different facets of insurance. And I made a choice, 2 decades ago to just do the hospitality portion of it. And at the end of the day, us brokers, we don't want our clients to have claims. And our clients, they don't want to have claims either. So when we're able to kind of help revolutionize and, simplify documentation and, create something that allows these frivolous claims and these other claims to go away, you'll start to see prices go down. And that's really, at the end of the day, that's my passion and what I want to do to help, an industry that needs it right now.
No, that's great. And that was a politician's version of 30 seconds.
I'm going to actually do it because I have to have this suit back by 8 o'clock. So I will say this, 3 simple things. 1, there's a tipping fatigue. Make no mistake, in the restaurant industry, we believe that tips are not an entitlement, but they are to be earned. Not when you go and take a bottle of water out at the airport and the guy asks for a tip because he scanned it. So we believe tips should be earned, number 1. Number 2, we also, this is a misnomer, if you do not like something at a restaurant that you are served, we want to hear it. Send it back to the kitchen. Don't send it back multiple times. If that happens, go to a different restaurant. But send it back because we want you to be happy. Again, we're the hospitality industry. Thirdly, and most proudly, restaurants across America are the most trusted industry in America. Technology held that number 1 spot for decades. We now are the most trusted and positively viewed industry in America, and that's something we're very proud of.
Well, I love that. And I read that 63%,
29 seconds.
that was really well done, really well done. But I read that 63% of Americans actually had their first job in a restaurant. So it's really part of our culture. Now, Howard, 30 seconds.
So the important thing, takeaway, if you're a restaurant operator, whatever you can do to make yourself a better operator, to have proper controls in place, have good documentation, have good training, and convey that information to your insurance carrier, that'll make you more desirable. That'll help with the challenges that the industry is facing. As far as an interesting fact, and this is something most people don't realize or recognize, but for insurance companies, if we can take in overall $1 of premium and pay out $1 of losses in a given year, that's a good year for us. Insurance companies make their money off investment of the money that we have to hold to pay the claims. So as long as we don't pay out more claims in a given year than we take in premium, that's a good year.
No, that's a good fact to know. So out of all of the great information that you shared, I'm walking away with, don't be the guy that returns the food more than once. Noted. Okay, so now I want to, first of all, please, audience, thank you to the panelists. You guys were amazing. And then I want to invite Adam back onto the stage because he's going to be continue the program for us. I think we're going to have a short video, and then Adam is going to share some really exciting news. And again, gentlemen, you were amazing. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you.
All right, so the end of that little clip was talking about building a single platform experience. And it probably took us a little over a year to figure out a wedge into the market. I think a lot of people know how large of an industry this is, but nobody's been able to crack this industry because this is a market that's highly fragmented. Restaurants, for the majority, the far majority, are, I think, single operator, owner-operator locations, SMBs predominantly, and getting distribution to those people is incredibly difficult. And so I want to say back in, almost a year ago, October of last year, we went out to market and we started interviewing some of the top customers, not only really in the state, but in the country. I want to say probably about 24 or so, and asking, hey, what are your biggest problems? And the overwhelming answer was hiring people, retaining those people, the cost to train those people. And so beginning of 23, this year, we launched our product to help digitize the process to train staff. And inside of that, we learned through DELO that there's a huge part of training that involves compliance. And it's extremely difficult for the insurance carriers to administer portions of training for their customers to stay compliant. And then as we dove deeper into the problem of insurance, we realized that the process of audits, inspections, and documentation was just as cumbersome, if not worse. There's been a lot of attempts to build InsurTech in Silicon Valley and around the world over the last, I'd say, decade, predominantly around home and auto. Most have attempted to become carriers and have failed. And it appears that we've cracked the nut, not only for InsurTech, but also just for penetrating the SMB space. And I kind of want to walk everybody through what our wedge into the hospitality vertical is going to be, which is going to be building a full-stack InsurTech platform for hospitality. So let's dive into it. So I want to start, and I want to introduce Ashley. Ashley is an owner and operator. And I want you guys to kind of feel yourselves in the shoes of Ashley, what it's like to be an owner-operator. Every location on the planet Earth has to have insurance. And part of insurance, your carriers mandate that you submit audits, inspections, certain pieces of documentation to just remain insurable and to mitigate risk. That process is really cumbersome. So here, Ashley gets a notification from her broker asking for some of this information. So, long story short, the problem nowadays is staying compliant at all levels of the supply chain, at the carrier level, the broker level, and the operator is a complete, utter pain in the ass. That's simple. So let's walk you through, present day, what's going to start happening with Sinatra. So I want to introduce DELO. And DELO is not only the mayor of hospitality in Arizona, especially in the vertical of insurance, but I would also really go as far to say across the country. I think any carrier that's predominant that wants to write this industry begs for DELO to write insurance for them. And DELO is going to be coming on as our CRO at Sinatra, and we decided to introduce virtual DELO on Sinatra. And let's kind of dive into DELO walking people through product here. So he's going to get Ashley signed up. Some pretty basic pieces of information. Ashley will register. And then DELO starts prompting Ashley with a series of questions, pretty straightforward. What kind of training focus do you want to have? And this is what we call best practices content, out-of-the-box content that we issue to operators. So our three categories are food and beverage, service, and then safety and compliance. Afterwards, DELO starts tackling liabilities with Ashley. These questions are contextual to carriers. In this case, these are some shots from Illinois Casualty themselves about potentially getting discounts based on a variety of factors on their liquor liability. And so DELO prompts Ashley with a series of 4 or 5 pretty straightforward questions. Let's dive in now to risk management. So for risk management, this is kind of your hub for all things insurance. And you'll see all the pieces of documentation here. Your insurance policies are stored here. Your liquor certificates are stored here. You can file managers and incident reports here. All of your safety tips are here. And then any of the forms that your employees have to sign, those handbooks, those cumbersome handbooks, are now digitized and templatized inside of here. So let's dive into the safety report now and what Ashley is going to be doing in moments of renewals, as well as if let's say Ashley's a new policyholder at another insurance carrier. These are going to be some of the things that Ashley's going to submit. Any claims information? Any incidents? What happened? Yes or no? If so, please report. A loss control checklist, walk around the property, see what's happening. Just as an FYI, present day in terms of claims, carriers might wait months, years, sometimes they never hear about claims. In terms of loss control checklists, present day, carriers will hire loss control inspectors themselves and fly them around the country to do physical inspections with a paper and pen and a clipboard, and that doesn't really scale very well. So now all of this starts to automate that at scale. Any inspections? Did somebody come in and clean your fire extinguishers or do pest control or grease traps, hood cleaning, things alike? You know, if they did, just take a picture, submit the certificate, you're good to go. Pretty simple. What was your monthly payroll? What were your monthly sales? We're also going to be starting to take a breakdown of food to beverage sales, which is really important because, you know, accounts can be, a restaurant could have a completely different risk profile. You know, a nightclub in Old Town Scottsdale that sells probably 80 to 90% liquor to 10 or so percent food is a much higher risk profile than, say, my home, the Henry. Let's see. And then lastly is just a safety meeting. So we've got standard training in here for liquor, alcohol awareness, food safety, things like that operators are going to be doing once a month. And really easy stuff, like 5 minutes. You can do it during pre-shift, not take 30 minutes, do a class. Screw that. That's not what you should do. And so once Ashley takes action, she's good to go. The renewals have been streamlined. Getting a new policy has been streamlined. It doesn't take weeks. It doesn't take lots of people. It doesn't take PDFs, documents, emails, text messages, phone calls, a lot of brokers. It's easy. So now let's dive into the second component, which is training. Like I said earlier, one of the first questions that DELO asked Ashley was, what kind of training do you want to focus on? And those were best practices. And best practices are those three categories. We also have the ability for operators themselves to go in and upload their own content. And then lastly is we have a lot of valuable real estate because we are in the staff's hands. And that's really the driving force of this industry. And so we do all sorts of different kinds of special features and whatnot in food, in beverage, you name it, for the staff. So we'll use this as an example. Some of you know this. We've done some local partnerships with some large liquor distributors and also food brands themselves on bringing the stories of their product portfolios to the staff inside of the restaurants, which are the actual sales force. Training the bartenders on the stories of Casamigos and then being able to measure, hey, last night we sold X amount of this booze, next morning let's train on that set of booze. Next, let's dive into your content. This is where you as an operator can go on your dashboard and upload, whatever you'd like, your menu, your best practices, the story of your brand, your hours, your new hire training orientation, A to Z, everything. And then it appears within seconds on the platform for all of your staff. Best practices, you all have seen this. There's food. Well, let's jump back to food. Culinary, liquor stories, beverage training. For service, we have Service 101, point of sale table management, job descriptions, host and hostess training, just getting started. And then last but certainly not least, safety and compliance, HR, sexual harassment, all sorts of different stuff. And then lastly is occasionally we prompt operators with just small little questions that correlate to each line item of the policy. Liquor liability, workers' comp, general liability, things like that. Saying, hey, submit us one or two pieces of information every once in a while, not bombarding them, to potentially have your carrier discount that portion of the policy. So that's the risk management platform of what we're starting with. We are already live in Arizona. We've been live in Arizona now for a few months. And in 2024, we're scaling across the country to tens of thousands of locations. And it's a very, very, very exciting time. So I think now we'll jump to kind of what's next. And I just want to give you all a little sprinkle of what's to come after we nail this. So I want to start with bottle recognition technology. Something that causes some of the much larger claims are alcohol and insurance. And as some of you all knew, when we first started, about a year and a half ago, there was a large component to what we were doing that related to camera technology, working with detecting all sorts of different objects that were relevant inside of the industry. And hospitality is a very 0 or 1 industry, and what I mean by that is if the thing being technology, doesn't automate or do said task for the operator will revert back to 0, which is paper and pen or whatever cumbersome way they executed said task previously. So this is something, again, at my home, the Henry. What we decided to do was go in and train a machine learning model to detect different brands of alcohol behind each bar. And as the camera would detect these bottles, we would say, okay, well, pretty much every bottle behind a bar is 750 milliliters. That equates, obviously there's a lot of factors like overpours, but that can equate to something like 14, 15 pours or so, maybe 16 pours, right in that area. And what happens is, present day, you've got paper, you've got pen, you've got a huge sales team in each state at a lot of these big, large beverage distributors The cameras will detect by the time that you've grabbed that bottle for the 12th or the 13th time and it's about to be empty, it'll send an automatic reorder to the beverage distributor, whichever one's cheapest, eliminating most of those sales teams, eliminating all of that paper and pen, eliminating all of those checks behind the bar. Real-time inventory and reporting and data as well. A lot of this also starts to tie back into training because, like you guys saw, a big part of this is food and beverage training. And so if you know that last night you sold a ton of Casamigos, the next morning, let's say you have a national restaurant chain, you can see, oh, wait, in this region we sold a lot of Casamigos, in this region we sold a lot of Grey Goose. You can send content out regionally about the stories of those brands to your sales team, which are your bartenders, your servers, your team. Number 2 out of 3 is also an extension of the insurance vertical within hospitality, which is also leveraging security cameras for slips, trips, and falls. So here you can see me in my outfit that I would much rather be in right now, but it's okay. I'm walking in a kitchen, and poof, there's a huge spill. Using those same security cameras, in a lot of restaurants, there'll be a spill in the kitchen. I mean, there's so much going on. It's like a war zone back there. There's spills all the time, or something catches on fire, or somebody cuts themselves. It's chaos back there. Our cameras will in real time detect, hey, there was a spill next to table 6, or wait a minute, a fire just caught on on the stove. And it'll send a notification, whether it's text, whether it's email, whatever it is, to the point of contact at the location, the GM, whoever it is, notifying them to, hey, go and clean this up. And then last but certainly not least, probably the thing that I'm most excited about, this is something that we're actually already implementing as we speak, is we're launching a nonprofit called Healing Hospitality for the employee base. And, when we really sat back and thought about it, at the end of the day, who's really doing the work in these locations? It's the bartenders, it's the bellmen, it's the cooks, it's the servers, the managers, all of these people. These are the people that are rolling their sleeves up and actually doing the work. And for the most part, they're forgotten. They're not taken care of, they're not attended to. And we wanted to do something a little bit different, which is inside of Sinatra, part of your training components are going to be to perform tasks and classes and all sorts of games inside of Healing Hospitality. And as you complete each task, you unlock access to doctors, therapists, healthy food, all sorts of benefits to live a better lifestyle for these people. And so that's what we want to do. We want to ensure that we take care of our industry, and I think it's important that we're mindful of such. So I think that's pretty much it. I just wanted to leave all of you with this. That's our mission, is to build the single system of hospitality, and we're going to start with insurance, land and expand from there, and we're going to take care of this industry. And so that's it. So thank you all for coming.